Yo, what's going on, guys? Koi here. Today we're going to be talking about Devas of Creation, and we're going to be talking about every single weapon in the game. How do they feel? Which one's the best? And like, where kind of are we right now? And where could we be with the future weapons? And I think that I have a lot of discrepancies about the weapons and the way that they kind of used them in the game, and that really is just more of a my thing compared to other people due to the fact that a lot of people like to see a lot more progress with their weapon, or some people are more biased with their weapon. And it's totally understandable because a lot of people are the way they are, because some things just don't change, such as like daggers being really hype or something like that. So let's go ahead and talk about it from my perspective, my opinion, as someone who's gotten to level 50, someone who's beaten the game, someone who knows how to fight in every single version of the combat, including PvP, because you know I've done it. I've done it all already, and we're already like pretty much end game in the first week. So let's go ahead and talk about it for the future people who want to know what is the best weapon in the game. Now, hands down, we're gonna go with the probably the one that's probably in the middle of everything, and a lot of people don't use it as much as they should. But let's go ahead and talk about it. So first things first, we'll talk about the Celestial Staff. Now, the reason why, hear me out now, the reason why people will not use this weapon off rip is because it's not a main weapon. It is a support weapon. It is the best support weapon. It is the only support weapon. Now, the only reason why this weapon doesn't get much high praise is literally just due to the fact that it requires you to be in a group, and in order for you to support other people, in order for you to get the most out of this weapon. And without that, you get no EXP, you get no damage, you get no worth. This weapon does require a lot of buildup and a lot of help in order for you to actually get this. This is not a solo weapon. This will not carry you in the game. So, with this being the case, this kind of makes the Celestial Staff fall off pretty hard. And I feel bad for Celestial Staff users because you can only use it if you're in a group setting. And trust me, when you use it in a group setting, you use it in a group setting. I mean, you are the number one MVP best person there. The only downside is some of the scaling is a little off, whether that be from the damage scaling being absolutely terrible, or from the healing scaling being a little lopsided towards more single target healing than group healing. Like, you can't really get that perfect group heal. It has to be multiple heals being stacked on top of each other. Then you kind of start to waste mana. And, at that point, you might as well just be using a weapon instead. And that is the way it is for Celestial Staff as of this moment. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the next one. And the next one is going to be Fire Staff. Fire Staff is so good, man. I think Fire Staff, honestly, is so good. The only problem with Fire Staff is that it's not good till you kind of get further into the game, due to the fact that the requirements for Fire Staff require you to use the first two moves, and the first two moves are devastatingly slow, which are if you're using the fireball, and then you're using um the little spinny circle plates, or the one where you catch fire. It's slower to level and a little harder to use, because it doesn't have the perfect move set for exactly what you want. Now, it is really good for comboing with. Now, if you combo this with another weapon, obviously you're going to have an amazing time, such as like Fire Staff Greatsword. You get a Fire Stack buff with a Greatsword. You get Dagger Fire Staff. You get some ridiculous damage right there. The only difference is hybrid builds are just not catered to right now, due to the fact that everything is so heavily stat based and weapon based. You'd have to be an absolute glass cannon maniac in order to actually pull this off. Now, the thing is, it is the best item to actually match with Ice Staff. But if you're running Ice Staff, you're probably going to run Celestial Staff instead, especially if you're in a group setting. Unless you're not in a group setting, then you're going to be running solo. So, yeah. Next one we're going to talk about is Ice Staff. Such a beautiful weapon, honestly. The ice snipe, everything like that, everything about this weapon, incredibly good for solo, incredibly good for PvP, incredibly good for PvE. It's got a invulnerability move that does damage back. This weapon has no problem clearing multiple characters at the same time if you just use the right moves at the right time. It could group stack, it could freaking heal stack, it could freaking you could use this with the combo tactics of different builds. And with this being the case, the thing with Ice Staff that makes it so good is the fact that it doesn't have a bad move at all. It just has moves made for different scenarios. And that's the kicker with Ice Staff. It's such a nice like move set. It's so nice. Works well with almost every single build in the game so far, especially if you're just looking for something to like kind of like play tactical with, then you could get like a lot more worth from it. And it really just depends on the way that you want to play with it. It's so good. I can't even like say that any of the moves are bad besides maybe Snowball's a little slow, but it is a slow. It's a slow silence and could even be a stun. It's ridiculous. All right. Yep, let's move on to the next one. And the next one we're going to talk about is Dagger. Now, Dagger is in that category of just being right there. It's like right there at the middle. The dealio with Dagger, right, is that the in most instances this weapon could be a good standalone weapon, does a lot of damage, don't get me wrong. That's the only reason I would put it above Celestial Staff. The only problem with this is that a mage with Celestial Staff could do a lot more than an archer with Dagger. Now, the only thing about Dagger is that its entire kit is literally PvP based. If you're not using it for PvP, you're using it for PvE, and at that point, the Great Sword just ends up outplaying the Dagger, hands down, 10 out of 10. And for those who are wondering, oh, but the dagger, it does the crit, man. It does the crit. It makes a skill crit. And it's like, yes, it can make a skill crit, but it can only crit one person. Even when using an AoE skill, it only lets you crit one person. So do not take that out of context. They mean by critting is they mean that the dagger can crit. It can make your skills crit, but that crit only applies to one character. Okay, so it's not that big of a deal. There's other things in the game that make your crits way better, even if it's not a skill-based crit. This is a really good single target damage item, but you're only going to use blink and other moves like that in order to like get an edge in PvP. In other words, the rest of the time you're not going to wait for that 30-second cooldown when you're in a situation where you got multiple enemies to fight at the same time. This is where you pull out a great sword, you slam them all down with serrated blade, and you call it a day. The rest of the move set for Dagger is incredibly good. The only downside with this move set that I have, right, is that it becomes less prevalent in PvE situations whenever it comes down to farming. You use pretty much any other weapon to farm besides this weapon due to the fact that the hitbox is small, the range is small, the speed is okay, and even whenever you look at the clunky combat that Dagger combat is right now, it just doesn't have a lot of worth because you're getting more out of other weapons than you are in Dagger combat. All right, next we're going to be talking about the Great Sword. The Great Sword is such a impressive and powerful weapon. It is so impressive. The only good part about the Great Sword though is due to the fact that the Great Sword has some of the best damage scaling in the game. My only issue with it is that you don't get a lot of versatility out of it. It's just straight damage. So with a weapon that's straight damage, you don't really get that much worth. Like, and the traits on this weapon, they feel incredibly watered down compared to the traits that this weapon should have gotten. Like, it has a healing trait that does little to no healing. It's got a slam trait that does terrible like stun damage. Like these traits, the traits on the great sword are absolutely horrendous. They're terrible. And if it wasn't for greatsword being the only good melee weapon in the game, a lot of people probably wouldn't use it because of how bad those traits are. And that just is the way it is. But the skills are what kind of carry this entire kit. The skills are what do all the damage. The skills are what do all the work that make the AoE go well, and the like all the freaking the amazing kit that you could create with the great sword is amazing. All right, now let's go ahead and get down to the last one, and the last one for me is going to be the bow. Now, if you guys do not know, the bow is such an amazing weapon, such an all-star weapon. It does so much work. It has the best poison in the game. It has the best range damage in the game. Next to the ice staff, I would say they both are pretty equal in that regard. The only difference is that the solar arrow is just a little more consistent due to the fact that you can use it at any range and still get that 50% damage bonus. And it's like, with that being the case, you could do a lot of work with this thing. It has a stun, it has a movement ability, it has multiple invulnerability abilities if you really want to go down that route. It has a lot of AoE, it has a lot of single target. It depends on what kind of build that you really go for because there's two of them. And it also has some of the best PvP capabilities. It's the fastest like range weapon that really puts the range in range weapon. Now, there's really no downside to this weapon due to the fact that even at a close range, you could really bait someone who's trying to melee you into going right through their armor with arrows. That's just the way that this weapon works. It's amazing. So, with this weapon being the way it is, I can't put it any lower than S tier. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys got any disgruntles, discrepancies, or if y'all think I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments below. This is the part where we start chatting about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell down below. Don't forget to join the Discord server, join the guild, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys later. Take it easy and peace out.